One of the cluster of new forest advanced landing grounds surveyed in 1942, Bisterne was scheduled for construction the following year. Half a mile north of the village of Bisterne to the east of the main A338 Christchurch to Ringwood Road in the Avon Valley. Work began in the spring of 1943 and 2 Sommerfeld track runways were laid. Taxiways parallel to the runway were covered with wire mesh, as were the aircraft dispersal points. 4 blister hangars were erected on the east side of the main strip and facilities for fuel and ammunition storage on the west. It was not anticipated that the Advanced Landing Ground ALG would be required until the following year, by which time regrowth of grass would help to consolidate the runways. However, to accommodate a U.S. fighter group, additional aircraft standings, marshalling areas and perimeter track extension were required, the work being carried out by No. 5005 Airfield Construction Squadron and completed in January 1944. At the end of February, U.S. Army engineers started the erection of a large number of tents along woodland fringes and in fields adjacent to the landing ground, and on March 7 the first of some 1,500 men of the 371st Fighter Group arrived, having disembarked at Liverpool the previous day. The 3 component squadrons, the 404th, 405th and 406th Fighter Squadrons, were gradually equipped with P-47 Thunderbolts, some new, some refurbished, and these were soon painted up with their codes, 9Q for the 404th, 8N for the 405th and 4W for the 406th. In the picture Colonel Bingham T. Bing Klein is seen up on the stage in the group's main briefing room at Bisterne in the spring of 1944, ready to brief a show to the Thunderbolt pilots of the 371st Fighter Group. Colonel Bingham commanded the 371st Fighter Group through its entire period of wartime service in the ETO. He is pictured here just as the group entered combat in the spring of 1944. After a hectic period of theater indoctrination and training, the first combat mission was flown on April 12 when 16 P-47s from each squadron, plus 2 spares, were sent on a fighter sweep. A variety of missions were flown during the rest of April and May, escorts, sweeps and fighter bombing specified targets, all with little opposition from the enemy. The more serious problem during this period was the deteriorating state of the runways, and the number of blown tires and bent propellers increased as the condition of the metal track became progressively bulged and rutted under the weight of the 8-ton Thunderbolts. Conditions became so bad that on April 21 the serviceable P-47s were flown out to Ypsiley, 3 miles to the north, which had hardened runways. Missions were flown from there while the runways at Bisterne were overlaid with BRC. On May 1, the P-47s returned, but the state of the runways was still not satisfactory and the aircraft continued to operate from Ypsiley while U.S. engineers used hardcore, bar and rod track and PSP to completely relay runway from 02 to 20 while the other was abandoned. The air echelon was finally able to resume operations from Bisterne on May 14. The 371st had their first tussle with the Luftwaffe on May 8 near Le Havre, resulting in 2 Bf-109s being credited as shot down for the loss of 1 P-47. On June 8, Major Rockford Gray, leading the 406th Fighter Squadron, surprised and shot down 3 FW-190s to become the 9th Air Force's first P-47 ace. He had previously shot down 2 enemy aircraft while flying with the 362nd Fighter Group, 5 victories being necessary to win the unofficial accolade of ace in the United States Army Air Force. In another encounter on June 20, during an armed reconnaissance, 4 enemy aircraft were shot down without loss. The 371st moved from Bisterne between June 17 and 29, using both its British base and its assigned Normandy landing ground at A6 Buzzaville, until the 23rd, with the rear party leaving England on June 29. During its sojourn at Bisterne, the 371st lost 10 P-47s on operations and 3 in flying accidents. In view of its troubled history, and the surfeit of UK airfields following the transfer of many RAF and United States Army Air Force units to the continent during the summer of 1944, it is little wonder that Bisterne ALG was not occupied by another flying unit. Derequisitioned in the late summer of 1944, it was subsequently cleared of metal tracking, hardcore and hangars, No. 5025 ACS undertaking the task in November that year. However, it proved impossible to separate the runway tracking from soil and turf, so the bulldozers simply pushed it up into a long ridgeline, This is one of the few traces that remained of this airfield in 1946, and traces can still be seen, although only the initiated would know that these acres of farmland once supported intense aerial activity.